What happens when you have crowdfunding campaign when it's just completely mismanaged? Well, let's talk about that. We got a couple campaigns that need to be highlighted and mentioned. So let's do this. So it has now been officially 1,295 days since Onimaru funded. Are you not familiar with Onimaru? Because I like to do a little Onimaru update every time I do one of these videos. So let me show you where things are at real quick as an aperitif to the main course of the other topics we're going to be talking about today. Here it is. There you go. It has been almost 3.5 years. 3.5 years because, you know, again, 1,295, right? So I did this originally almost a month ago when I filmed this. And since then they said, okay, we almost have a full pre-production copy right here. Unfortunately, they have a disruption in their productions. They're behind course. We're going to have another update, a video showing this by the middle of the month at the latest. And this was July 2, right? So I filmed this in the middle of the July saying, okay, well, you know what? Next update is going to be in August. We'll kind of see. We'll go from there. Next update. Well, just kidding. August 1. Happy August. We completely forgot about that middle of the month update. And previous update, we should have had one turnaround. Here are, you know, in order of transparency, right? Like 3.5 years later, we're trying to be transparent. Hey. Here are some, you know, pictures of emails and stuff. Confirm receipt of email. Check. Requested pictures. Asking if it had been shipped on the 29th and if there were any more pictures to review. On August 2, there was no email back. Again, almost 2 weeks already from this update and nothing. Okay. Does that make you feel any better? There we go. On to the main course. First up here, we're going to be talking about Peterson Games. The Peterson Games, but it's basically robbing Peter to pay Paul with their, I believe, 8 unfulfilled Kickstarter crowdfunding campaigns out there. Everything from Cthulhu Wars to Hypership to just all of the little ones in between. So let's take a look. Here's a 3-minute video.
Wondered what Peterson Games is doing and why our projects progress so slowly. You've asked questions, you've speculated.
Yeah.
Given up on us.
Yeah.
We're patient and understanding, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Well, you know.
That's the situation straight from the source. Peterson Games has reorganized.
Reorganized, in case you didn't hear that. Basically, they don't have enough money to pay people.
We're down to a skeleton crew. Factory lockdowns, paper shortages, higher shipping rates, inflation, and fuel costs hit us hard.
Well, some of those are probably more so than others.
Time is money for any business, so the longer it takes for us to get products to market, the more these challenges compromise our position.
Well, that's kind of why they put out Cthulhu Duels, essentially, right? To try and make up some of that. Getting retail to pay for crowdfunding.
Peterson Games is now going to focus on one product at a time to ensure every campaign is delivered.
Which project, though? Because you're not very clear. Because you have 8 projects, some of which are more outstanding than others. And, you know, it would make sense to probably do them in the order, but it doesn't sound like you're necessarily going to do that, especially if you're going to be that vague.
We're deeply vested in our games and our backers. First up is Cthulhu Wars: The Final Onslaught, which is in final assembly. The factory says it will be ready to ship shortly. This includes the Cataclysm, the Demon Sultan, and the German language Cthulhu Wars products, plus all the associated expansions. Next, we'll move to the next delay project. Our end goal is to fulfill all of our obligations, every single Kickstarter project. Getting these projects done with a smaller team takes time, so we must
We're pretty far out there already.
Ask for more patience. However, all of these projects are in production or pre-production, which is the longest stretch of the process, but also not affected by our staffing.
Pre-production. Pre-production. That is the most vague term that I've ever seen. Pre-production could mean anything, folks. You could be still designing rule books.
You now know our plan. I'll explain how we got here. 2019 was our best year ever. We were confident entering 2020. Then the China factory lockdown hit us.
You know, it hit everybody else too. It hit everybody else too. And other companies have still succeeded. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt.
Couldn't manufacture new product to replace what we sold. We had other setbacks. Partners went out of business. Figure molds were stolen and needed to be recast.
Whoa.
No one thing pushed us down. It was a combination of events over time. You may have noticed that we began to release more modest games, such as Cthulhu Wars Duel and Invasion to the Brood.
I did. And Invasion of the Brood, that went on GameFound with a couple others, and it was not so hot.
All of these earned a profit, which went directly into finishing Kickstarters. Over time, our cash supply shrank. We worked hard to keep going. We kept our entire team staffed throughout the first 2 years of the pandemic. To complete projects, I plunged the bulk of my private funds into the effort.
That sucks. Regardless of who you are or what you're in, that sucks.
Ultimately, we were forced to let go of the best team I have ever worked with. Be it known that the team was in no way responsible for product delays, and in fact did yeoman work up until the last minute to keep us going. For those who are rightly upset because they have paid me and not gotten their rewards, I am also upset by the delay. Please be aware that I have put more money into these projects than anyone else. I don't regret doing so, and my investment is ready to bear fruit for you. This was a difficult message to deliver, and a challenging time lies ahead. Please be aware that we will work like fiends to get these projects out to you.
Fiends. Little wordplay there. Cthulhu Wars. Anyway.
I am confident that we will fulfill all our promises to our supporters. We will update all unfulfilled campaigns on a regular basis to keep you informed. This is Sandy Peterson, signing off for now.
Okay, there you go. That is the vague message that you're going to get about one of the campaigns of the 8 or so that they have to fulfill, right? Does that leave you, I guess is the question, any more feeling better than prior to watching something like that? We've seen all of the other ones have trouble. We've seen plenty of the other ones have trouble. And the thing that has gone over the best on a lot of these games, even the smaller companies than this, is that you've been transparent, and you've been transparent from the get-go. And I think that's been the biggest problem with this is, like you said, you've been robbing Peter to pay Paul on the other campaigns, as well as now the retail stuff that you had to put out. And was it actually, retail stuff that you were planning on putting out, or was it sort of, okay, we need to do something? And that's not very clear in that sense. The biggest concern with something like this is that you're over leveraged so far in funds that you don't actually have the funds to get the stuff that you print into distribution to make those funds back in order to keep the cycle going. And that's the fear that has been going on for a while. And so the underlying tone of this has to be, hey, FYI, we're going to be asking for more money in the near future for shipping to help with the actual freight, I would assume, to get it into distribution from that sense. Which goes right into this post from a year ago. This is literally July 2021, when they're talking about very much the same thing, talking about that they're overextended. The distributors want more pre-orders for the print run, but we just can't get it because we've used all of our cash reserve, and we didn't replenish because of COVID, right? The other interesting aspect of this update from even a year ago, they say, well, we basically have two options from a retail side of things or from a backer side of things. The first is if we chose that to give only backer copies, we have the monies to print this, they say, even at that time. You guys would get your games, but it costs us the opportunity to put the company in a safety position for the foreseeable future. The second option is we're going to do is print all the copies we need. Note that a separate batch would balloon cost per unit, and that would, of course, put the positions of safety for everything. And now you notice that they don't actually say what they're going to do here. And we also don't see anything when we get a year later with this, now July 2022. So this is just a mess. And as some commenters have said, you're going to be looking at maybe a game a year at this point, and you have 8 games. You're going to be looking at maybe the next decade to get these campaigns fulfilled that are, even a couple years old at this point. So you could be looking potentially at getting your game fulfilled 6, 7, 8 years after it was actually pledged for. And that's assuming they stay solvent between now and then, which is potentially a very, very big concern in that sense. So that's kind of the latest update that's going on with Peterson Games as a whole. Now, let's talk about the other cluster. And here is the second half, in case it wasn't clear. Blacklist Games. There's been a lot of smoke. Now we're actually getting to the fire, folks. And it starts not over on Street Masters, which is where I would have expected it, because if you're a Street Masters Aftershock campaign person that still doesn't have their rewards, well, that's actually a thing. But we're talking about Blacklist Miniatures, their Fantasy Series 1, which I believe they've already had a Fantasy Series 2 as well. This raised $1 million because they basically said, hey, you want D&D inspired miniatures at a great bundle deal? We're going to offer them to you 16,000 people later. And this was funded in May of 2020, so we're over 2 years out and people don't have their things already. But some people do have their things. That's the interesting part, right? Where are we at now? The July update. To say lightly, we had no experience. We were a complete mess. Kept reacting to situations for the long-term plan, but we need your help. We just need $360,000 to complete fulfillment of this. And I'd link you to the GoFundMe that they actually ran as the way to get funds for this, but it was taken down because that's against the terms of GoFundMe in the first place. Now, I can't give you the detailed minutia by minutia here, but thankfully other faithful followers of Blacklist have compiled it for you so you can tell how they lied to you in previous updates on where things were at. Courtesy of Reddit over here, you can get a sense of things. August 2021. Containers are still at sea en route to their destination. Now, let me be clear about this before we get into the nitty-gritty here. A lot of the other parts of the world outside of North America have had their parts of this fulfilled. And as someone in the comment section put, maybe they did the EU first because of the much stronger privacy and protection laws for consumers. And ding, 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 you got a winner there. Because North America, we like our freedom and our independence. Because, and so, yeah, I don't want protections. I don't want unions. I don't want that stuff. Anyway, going back to this, August, almost a year ago now, to this date, they're en route. With the region commencing September and October. Then, September, 2 have arrived in Miami, but they're being held up. It's a bit of a mess. The other 8 regions will be held in Florida in a different port, so they won't be affected by that. September again, they're going to arrive to QML next week, with the final 4 arriving contingent on smooth sailing. 8 more containers on the way, 4 more, there you go. QML just waiting for 6 here now in October. October, QML has 7. November, we're glad all 10 containers have arrived. We'll give them the green light and begin shipping. Oh, now Alex, Director of Operations. We've never used funding from other projects for this project. That's tantamount to folly and not how a business can operate. But there's extreme fees and all of the difference in the inflated costs of completing fulfillment in all these other areas are definitely taking the toll on us. January now, we are 6 months later, finally establishing a relationship with an investor to help us alleviate some of the balances. Now we can clear things out with QML in full, allowing us to give the final green light. Okay. February, the investor and I have been waiting. QML has, basically needs to make an announcement to say they've received funds and have the dates confirmed. QML's confirmed they've received the financial portion. March. We're sorry it's taken a while for you to return with another update regarding fulfillment, but the wheels are in motion. April, Hour of Need is still doing it, and now QML's doing that one. May, all regions are confirmed for Hour of Need. QML's going to be able to start working on a fulfillment schedule for the other stuff. Oh, June, QML, not for anything for FS1 still. Regions are fulfillment are not on their schedule because the official contract signing is going to happen soon. So here is what the breakdown looks like. Right. QML actually came out with a statement this week and said, yeah, we've been monitoring this. Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion. We're trying to find a solution. They're basically saying, hey, look, it's not our fault. You're not paying us the money. A lot of people are pissed off and they're saying, hey, Blacklist, we're not going to give you any more money. If we want to pay, QML directly, maybe then we'll have a little bit better guarantee of actually getting our product. But this sounds like when you read through these updates, this is a whole lot of smoke being blown straight up your, that sort of thing. Like, you don't have to wait this long. You don't have the funds. The stuff wasn't there. One of the two occurred. I can't tell which it is in this case, but I'm getting BS. And the fact that QML actually had to put something out basically trying to say, hey, look, guys, it's not really our fault. This is basically what this is. Now, look, I'm not saying that this sucks, and I'm not saying that costs aren't exorbitant and costs haven't risen through the roof, but there's a way to do it and there's a way not to do it. And lately, companies have been completely hit or miss on how to do it. And Darkest Dungeon from Mythic is sort of an example on both ends of the extreme here, when they just put out their last update. Hey, look, guys, and they give more transparency. And so I feel for them. And they say, oh, look, wave 1 is pretty much ready to ship. We've subsidized over $1 million of our own money already, but it's going to cost an additional 7 on top of 1.4 on top of the 1.7 already paid by backers. And so that's an additional money that needs to be paid. They're saying, hey, look, we're going to subsidize 50% of that, and we're asking the rest of it from you guys, which is going to come out to, like, I think anywhere between $25 and $60 per person here, right here, as you can see, depending on what you ordered. And I think part of it nowadays has to be, if you are backing a miniature game and you're backing something like this, I'm also putting it on the people who are backing this, to be frank with you. Not all on them, because you're getting boxes of freaking huge, heavy miniatures, folks. It's not going to cost you $20, even if you can get it shipped halfway across the US. You're paying for freight. You're paying for freight and shipping. What they should say is they should take off the term shipping off of all of these pages and say freight and shipping. Asterisks may change. Now, the part I don't like about what Mythic has done here is they basically say your game is printed, it's yours, and we'll store it as long as possible. So it kind of feels like they're just going to hold it hostage until you pay them. That's not a very good strategy or to get people on your side, even if you are in the right? Now they say down here at the bottom of this next paragraph, we'll pay for storage fees and we'll find a solution to deliver a game we can, but it's kind of in the most vague language, sort of like what Mythic puts on their crowdfunding campaign pages, like, won't go to a distributor. Well, we're still going to sell it. I mean, it's not Kickstarter exclusive, but that's what they want to make you think in order to buy it on the crowdfunding campaign. They'll still sell it in their web shop, but you're not supposed to read in between the lines. And that's sort of what this feels like too, in that sense. But we've seen it with other companies. With Nemesis Games, with their Uprising, offering promos. Wonderland's War did the same thing. Just little trinkets, little shows of appreciation, or just companies who are, transparent the whole way and never feeling like you're getting the wool pulled over your eyes at any point along the way, regardless. And the thing that's in common with all three of these is there's been some feeling of that regardless of, which project it's been. Say what you will about the product, say what you will about the people behind the product. There's just been that feeling. And that affects things when you ask for things like this. So there you go. That's the current stasis of things. Yeah, I use that term actually there instead of status because it's a stasis. You're in stasis with all of these projects, right? This is the risk. This is crowdfunding is a pre-order store system. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. But that's also why I say on a routine basis on my crowdfunding roundup videos, if shipping is going to be a make it or break it for you, you should not be backing, period. I don't care how good the value is. And that's also why I hope companies are paying attention to this, because what's the shipping cost going to be if the weight is less because you've gone to standees instead of miniatures? Because now instead of having 4 boxes, you have 1 and the weight's a quarter of what it would have been previously. So the shipping is a lot less, so that if shipping costs go up, then you're not worrying about it from a logistics standpoint. Yeah, the price might not be that different when it comes to the molds versus the standees, but what if it's a trickle-down effect from that aspect of things? That's one point I haven't seen anybody talking about when it comes to that, right? I also prefer standees, but that's a whole nother side conversation. There you go. That is the stasis of a bunch of projects and why this will continue to be a mess and why we need to talk about these things, because these are serious concerns that you have to be aware of when you're looking at companies, when you're looking at backgrounds, when you're looking at projects in general. How do you feel about things? Are you willing to have that money put on hold? Are you buying that because you think it's a good value and that if you don't like it, you'll be able to get your money back or more because it's a good value? Well, some of these were good values, right? Not so much anymore. There you go. Stay classy. Thanks for tuning in. What do you think? Where are things at? Thoughts, feelings, comments, otherwise down below. Let me know. Sub if you want, and then stay classy, and I'll see you around.